But here's what happens to us psychologically when we get alone. We develop relationship muscle weakness because the skills that we need to create deep bonds and deep relationships, skills like empathy or perspective taking, skills we need to be in public, our social skills, our conversational skills, we start to lose them. We're not using them as much. And like any other muscle, relationships muscles will atrophy when we don't use them. The problem is that psychologically, when people are lonely, they develop a whole way of thinking that is very, very self-defeating. They are unaware that they are doing something very crucial. And what they're doing, unfortunately, is in an unconscious way, they are pushing away the very people who could alleviate their loneliness by their behavior. Because they feel so raw, and they feel so vulnerable, and they want to be protective. They don't want to put themselves out there and experience rejection. So if a friend hasn't spoken to them for a month, they'll call the friend, and they might call or email the friend and go, you know, you haven't called me in a month. Now the friend is there thinking, you haven't called me either, but you sound angry, so not very appetizing for me, you know. Or I'm not going to go to that party because I don't know anyone, and no one will want to talk to me, so they'll avoid going. Or I'll go to that party, even though I know no one will want to talk to me. So off they go to the party, and they're so convinced no one will want to talk to them that they park themselves by the hummus and the vegetable dip with a scowl on their face, and lo and behold, not very inviting for other people to go up and go, hey, what's with the sourpuss? You know? And then they feel, see, I'm undesirable. People didn't want me. And they misunderstand it. Now, if you have the flu and you're home in bed for a week, and you get out of bed and your legs wobble because your muscles are weak, you will conclude, my muscles are weak because I haven't used them in a week, correct? But when you're lonely and you haven't dated for 3 years and you go out on a date and you screw it up and the person's not interested, unfortunately you don't conclude, my relationship, my dating muscles are weak. You conclude, you see, I knew it, I'm undesirable. And so there's a real big misinterpretation that happens, and the defensiveness and the need to protect makes people literally push away, and they're not aware of it. And also, lonely people don't see the opportunities that exist around them. A few weeks ago, I was doing this radio show on NPR. It was a call-in show, and these days, call-in shows, you can call in, but also you can leave questions on the show's Facebook page. And we were talking about loneliness. And one man, and they were reading me the questions, and one man wrote on the show's Facebook page, along with dozens of other people who wrote questions, and what he wrote was, the doctor doesn't understand that people like me don't have opportunities to connect with people who feel like me. Well, there are dozens of them right there on the page. You have your name, you have their name, just click friend. How can you not see that? But that's what they wrote, and they were indignant that I wasn't getting it after I actually made that point. And that's the blindness that happens to us when we suffer from loneliness. And the problem with chronic loneliness in that sense is it's really a trap that's difficult to get out of. It stigmatizes us. People are aware when somebody is lonely. And there are other studies, and this is a little alarming, that show that loneliness is even contagious in social networks. They followed a big social network of people. They identified within it the people that were lonely, and they followed them over 6 and 9 and 12 months. And they saw that in time, the lonely people were pushed to the periphery of the social network. But the people closest to them were also pushed out to the periphery of the social network. So there's a certain even contagion that can happen. When people come to see me in my office, one of the things they're most reluctant to admit is that they're lonely. They will tell me things you wouldn't believe before they tell me they're lonely. And I'm like, really? That you could tell me? Which kind of, I'm having a hard time getting the visual out of my head. But this you can't tell me? So, anywho, so loneliness can really impact us. And psychologically, it sets us up to be more at risk for depression. We are at greater risk for developing Alzheimer's disease. We are at greater risk for the progression of Alzheimer's to be more rapid. But other than that, loneliness affects us physically as well. The constant stress we feel makes us at much greater risk for cardiovascular disease when we are chronically lonely. And the other thing loneliness does is it depresses the function of our immune system. And you don't have to be lonely for that long for that to happen. They did one study where they looked at college freshmen just after they arrived. And health services, they asked, here's a flu shot. They gave everyone a flu shot. And they asked them a bunch of questions. It's a kind of standard thing. And one of the questions was, are you feeling lonely? And they saw that the students who indicated they were lonely had a much poorer response to the flu shot than the students who didn't feel lonely, because it was depressing their immune system, even in the short amount of time they were at college. And when you look at people's health factors, and you compare people with similar health factors, health risk factors, who are lonely, who are chronically lonely rather, and who are not, you will see that the chronically lonely people live less longer. It literally affects longevity. And so scientists concluded that taking all of this into account, chronic loneliness poses as significant a risk for our physical health and our longevity as cigarette smoking. As cigarette smoking. Now look, cigarette packs come with warnings from the Surgeon General. Doing this might kind of kill you. But loneliness doesn't. When we inhale 2 packs a day of loneliness, we don't know that we're doing something that can be that damaging, not just to our emotional health, but to our longevity. That we're really predisposing ourselves for all kinds of diseases because of the chronic stress, because of the depression of our immune systems. And so the awareness, again, I'm going back to that point, that our lack of awareness when it comes to our psychological health is really costing us. And look, you are people who are really informed about nutrition. You're really informed about physical health. And you see around you people who are not. And you look at them and you go, eek, what you're doing is costing you and you don't realizing it. Well, that's everyone when it comes to psychological health. Everyone.